Have you guys ever heard of this new Mega Man game called Mega Man Max Distance, totally made by Capcom? This game came out in July of 2017 and continued to receive updates until this very day, as well as Capcom totally making new levels every single month. And I'm going to rank them. Ladybug? What? Okay. Oh, okay. Sorry guys, this game is actually called Mega Man Maker, and it's not made by Capcom, it's made by the fans. And yeah, it's been out since 2017, and the lovely peeps involved wanted to put the power into the hands of the players to create and customize their own Mega Man experiences. But it's a bit of a challenge to be creative and make a well-designed action platformer level at the same time. Capcom has been a god in the action platformer genre for more than 35 years, and throughout their various series, with our Blue Boy included, they have shown mastery over their implementation of challenge, level design, and aesthetic. And in this video, I wanted to look at how the fans go about taking on that challenge Capcom initially took on for themselves. So for September, and God willing, at least for the next year, I want to rank the levels for each month and break down exactly how fans tackled this challenge while matching Capcom at their own game, or even surpassing it in their own way. Welcome in, peoples, if you are new, and if you aren't, welcome back. You are all looking great as always, gosh darn it. And also, as always, if you like the video, go ahead and give it a like, but hold off on subscribing until you've seen more of the channel, please. Now, I can't rank every single level in September cause good lord, despite this game being almost a decade old, y'all are still cranking these things out. We also had an issue of not being able to get more of the recent ones done that I would have liked because you guys during the streams kept sending us older ones, but I appreciate you guys anyway. You all are some really creative Krabby Patties, I tell you what. So for this time around, this is how we're going to do it. I'll be pulling the top 5 levels and ranking those, and then I'll spitfire and honorable mentions for those who weren't for this month since you all sent us so many. For October's levels, I will try to do this a bit better so we can have more to rank, maybe like a top 10 or something. So how are we going to be ranking these levels? We're going to go back to what I mentioned earlier concerning what Capcom has tamed mastery over. We got 3 categories, each containing 5 points each level having the potential to receive 15 points total. We have the balance of challenge, the implementation of level design, and do they have the sugar, spice, and everything nice going on with the aesthetic. The categories themselves are kind of broad, but I won't bombard y'all with my OCD cliff notes for each category as to not make this video any longer than it already is. And it's probably better this way because I don't want to create any underlying bias with these specifics, because at the end of the day, you should make whatever kind of level you want, and you can do so while nailing these points I have laid out. I just don't want to influence others to think they should limit themselves. And just as a side note, I am going to be as objective as possible with these levels. However, if any 2 or more levels get the same score, all objectivity goes out the window and I'll go by which stage I ended up liking the most out of the levels in that situation. Though even me saying I'll try to be as objective as possible doesn't mean much, cause it's still just my list and opinions at the end of the day. Every single person on today's list has way much more to offer than I do, since they are actually the ones making these levels. So thank you all, by the way, for sharing your levels, because it takes a lot of courage to put your work out there. I just hope you all don't take my criticism too personally. First up at rank 5 for this month, Gears of the Galaxy Fuel Man Oil Rig by Electro TZF, and it was posted on September 6th. This level in concept is really cool. I like the design choice. It's simple, but at the same time, some of the hazards go in tandem with the theme. You get tons of special weapons to use, and some of them you can use with pickups in the environment, like this ring, the Rising Tornado to get this E-Tank, or to protect yourself against certain environmental hazards or enemies, like with the Acid Shield. But after that, there are just a few implementations that cause this whole level to slip. My main two issues are with the introduction to gimmicks/hazards and checkpoint placement. A handful of hazards are introduced above bottomless pits, these moving platforms, the dripping oil, these lasers, though these are introduced at the beginning, but not in the same fashion as they are here. Like, for these lasers, I had ever only seen them moving, so I didn't even notice the lasers above this pit, which maybe is my fault because I just didn't see them, but I think the thought still counts here. We have the weird jumps with spikes on the ceiling. We do see spikes on the ceiling previous to this, but never have to engage with them until this segment. And we have jumps that have to be made that the player isn't prepared for in this segment, where you do have to make a very precise jump over a bottomless pit where you hit your head on the ceiling during it. Hazards like these are essential for a player to get eased into before harder variations of them for a more enjoyable experience. But even if you don't do this, it's not incredibly tedious on its own. What makes this jump in particular here worse is where the checkpoint is located. In this stage, the checkpoint is right before the mini-boss, Bomb Man, but not after him. Bomb Man isn't particularly hard to beat, but when you die later in the level and have to fight him again without any special weapons, it gets annoying and tedious. I got to the point where I had to just use lemons to beat a boss I've already mastered, to then try that jump again, but only after a significant amount of time has already passed, to then get KO'd by the same jump or something else and go back and do it again. Also, I guess the weapon energy spawn rate is pretty low? Possibly. I tried grinding for some, but I hardly got anything. I guess I was supposed to just use the rush armor, but I didn't know how it worked at first, and even later after I figured it out, I didn't see the appeal in using it against Bomb Man because you have to get somewhat close to him while he's jump spamming around the room like frickin' Tigger. My last gripe has to be with this segment after defeating the boss. You get sent to a room with water and a new special weapon, an oil surfboard. I guess oil had to come up at some point, but anyhow, I can't seem to clear this jump, so I keep jumping and jumping and jumping, and oh, I finally cleared it, randomly, somehow. Then I have to make a second jump that's seemingly impossible, and just before I was at my wit's end, Megarock finds out that the oil surfboard gives you a second jump. They give you the oil, I just assume it has something to do with the oil. What, can I double jump with this thing?
Oh, you can.
What?
Yeah. There we go.
How did you? Oh my lord! That sucks. We weren't given a hint from having used it earlier in the stage since it's only showing up now. There were no guides in the room at all. How is a new player supposed to figure this out? I know it's possible this was sort of like how in Super Metroid you speed boost into a pit, but you can't get out without learning how to wall jump. But at least there, it's giving you a hint with the animals. But either way, because of the shenanigans earlier in the level, even if we did get hints, I was not in the mood for more of this level after the boss. I was done. And it's not just because I kept getting KO'd, because I've played some really tough levels that I've lost so many times in, but I would still have a blast. It just shows how important a good flow is in these kind of games. It prepares the player and helps them feel more in control since the progression is fair. Despite all of that, I really still enjoy the concept and some of the challenges here and there, but the rest of what I mentioned shapes the majority of the experience. Hopefully, if the creator of this level sees this, then I hope you don't take this personally. Just use this feedback to improve, or who knows, maybe this was the intended experience. I don't know. But at the end of the day, it is just my opinion, and my opinion is no better than yours. Besides, you probably know more about this stuff than I do. But again, I love your level and concept, and you did some things really well, like I pointed out. It was just frustrating, and not the good kind. Overall, Electro TZF, you have an awesome knack for structure, so I hope to see more of it if you make more levels in the future. Next up at rank 4 for this month, King of the Kings 1 by /040, and it was posted on September 5th. Now, this level was a doozy, and no, it's not because you have to fight the yellow devil at the end. I actually found myself liking this stage towards the end because of how much was going on, but that was also to this stage's detriment. As soon as you load in, you are smacked in the freaking face by tons of spikes. This airman being right here at the very beginning is honestly very diabolical. There's hardly any progressive challenge in this stage. It was as chaotic as Team Chaotix is with their communication. Lord, it's like they put their hand in the toy box and just threw all of the toys randomly on the canvas. There's no real theme. You go from city to land to icebergs to sky to a factory to the desert. But even saying all of that, it has some really neat ideas. I like this small bit where they place these cars to collide right into you while you're waiting on the Uber to pick you up. Also, I still liked how they placed secrets in this level, though I still don't know how they wanted me to get this first secret because I got KO'd for seemingly no reason here. The checkpoints were spaced fairly well, health pickups were reasonable too, though those saving graces were only enough to score a 9. I honestly think the chaos might have been the point of this stage, but that in itself doesn't change anything about how well the level is made. And technically, even though the oil rig and this level both scored the same, I do believe that the oil rig level was better designed than this one. When weighing the chaos of this level and the organization of the oil rig, I think the oil rig is better structured, but at the end of the day, King of the Kings 1 was just more fun for me to play. /040, I honestly think you could definitely make a level that's chaotic, but still super fun. I can see it for sure, if that's what you end up wanting to do, of course. Coming in at number 3. What killed the dinosaurs? What killed the dinosaurs? This level was made by I Don't Know Anymore on September 5th, and I really like this level. It's actually my favorite out of the 5 levels on this list, but it's not ranked at number 1, so what's wrong? Well, first, let me talk about the aspects of this level that I really enjoy. First and foremost, I really like the atmosphere they give to this level. They keep the Icy Mountain theme consistent throughout the entirety of it. They did a good job picking enemies and having their colors suit the level. I honestly really feel like they were very aware of the color language they wanted to go for. Either that or they didn't notice at all and they just have a knack for it, but it's still good regardless. I also really like their choice of music for this level, though, of course, everyone is going to have good music for their levels. It's mostly Mega Man. The whole series is host to good music, but matching music to atmosphere and action does wonders for the experience. And speaking of music, it's not just the main level that was well chosen. After the boss, this happens. I loved this segment. I'm not sure why we're in a escape sequence maybe, but it's a nice touch nonetheless. Something else this person handles decently well is the falling block platforms. I think they could go a bit further with them, but they are somewhat gradually introduced to the player and later trip you up with aggressive enemies blended into the mix. But when we are talking about gradual introduction to hazards, this is something that the level struggles a bit with. For example, these springs. I do like the idea of them, but they are kind of thrown in out of nowhere and with a bottomless pit, which again, that doesn't give the player room for error or understanding. And that can make the player feel that the situation is not completely in their control if they get KO'd here. Another big one was actually with my favorite part of the level, the escape sequence. This guy is supposed to carry you through the rest of the level, but it doesn't seem like it at first glance because once you load into the next room, the music kicks in and you see the word danger. That makes every bone in your body want to avoid that enemy at all cost. Also, since it wasn't used previously in the level, there was no precursor as to how it was intended to be used. You don't really know for sure that you need it until the end of the next screen where Mega Man can't clear the last jump in this room. It's still good that you warned the player though. It shows that you were aware that you needed to guide the player in some way, shape, or form. But either way, it was honestly still tons of fun to play. The level was short and sweet, it had well-placed checkpoints, which is probably why the lack of aspects that I mentioned weren't too egregious to deal with, but still worth learning from. And for that, you get an 11, my friend. I don't know anymore. You have an awesome eye for aesthetic design, and I can't wait to see you bring more of that into future levels if you decide to do more. Awesome stuff. At rank 2 for this month, we have The First Emergence by The Blazing Diamond, and they posted this on the 6th of September. This was actually someone from my Discord server. Yes, and this was the first level they ever made. I am so proud, but nah, they don't get any special treatment here. This level is the epitome of a basic boy Mega Man level, and I don't mean that in a bad way. This level has very, very strong foundations in and throughout. The aesthetic design was great. It tells a story without words and makes sense. You start in the sewers, make your way out to the city above, and climb up to the power plant where Magnet Man resides in. The enemies slowly evolve along with the scenery in a way that makes sense as well. And I love the little details here and there that represent where you are, like the water spurts in the sewers, the city with the foreground and background light poles, with some of them fine and others that are broken, and then the flashing lights in the areas above. Very great atmosphere. You did a great job mixing up some of the enemy encounters with different platforming to have the player engage with those enemies in gradually more difficult situations. You also did a great job hinting to the player to explore their options to get inaccessible items or hard to reach enemies, as well as your gimmick being handled fairly well, despite the negative bias that might be within the core of a lot of players. Let's go ahead and go over that gimmick really quick. The main gimmick here are disappearing blocks. A lot of people dislike this gimmick. I don't mind them at all, but I'm sure I have some underlying trauma somewhere in there from encountering them as a child. The cool thing about how Blazing handled this was that he first used the precursor, so to speak, to these disappearing blocks, that being time bomb platforms. I think these are handled fairly well, and I feel the transition to the literal disappearing blocks was pretty smooth. There's only one problem. The issue with how these were handled was how far apart some of these blocks were. Early on, we have fairly normal jumps with the bomb platforms, but after transitioning to the actual disappearing blocks, we only gain more experience with these blocks via vertical scaling. But this prepping doesn't help us with the max distance jumping you have to make later towards the end. And missing this jump becomes super frustrating for like 2 reasons specifically in this level. 1, it suffers from the shoop the whoop I'm at the end of the level tee-hee syndrome, which we talked about a little earlier with Electro TZF's level. The checkpoint is all the way back here, but I'm gonna introduce a very difficult segment all the way up there. And 2, once you start over at the checkpoint, you are only building muscle memory for everything but the issue you struggled on, not leaving enough space on the memory card to write a new save, so to speak. Now, my friend Megatroid was playing with me on this level, and he mentioned how these platforms were a little too far apart considering the timing to line up your jump. And yeah, you gotta start booking it to get to the edge of that ledge, like, Lord, heave, shimmy, shimmy, heave, shimmy, shimmy. And by the way, we had so many people put these types of jumps in their levels. Like, I must ask, why do this? Is it really necessary?
Shut up!
Dang, Mega Man, you must have some crazy anchor arm legs to hold yourself over the ledge like this, good lord. But yeah, anyhow, you could just not put them too far apart in general. That could be a solution, but I actually don't mind if some are put that far apart. We've been bringing this up a lot, but it's all about progressive introduction, starting an idea in a safe environment and scaling to more difficult variations. Again, I think you did a great job with the bomb platforms and shifting to the disappearing blocks. But I think if you would have given us a segment in a safer environment to make max distance jumps, like you did here with the vertical jumps, that taking a loss here wouldn't have been as distasteful. Because the process that happens is this: you get KO'd from said difficult jump, start back at the checkpoint, execute every jump that's different from the one later flawlessly because you've already had practice with them, and then only get the one chance to try that more difficult jump later on a super strict timer with no room for trial and error besides starting all the way back at the checkpoint. Now, if you wanted to do this and make a player tackle an unsafe jump like this without prep, putting it near the checkpoint is easier to swallow, but I will always recommend using the progressive approach. Of course, stuff like this is easier said than done, but either way, great job blazing. I can't wait to see if you'll make more levels in the future because you have very solid foundations. I hope to see some unique interpretations on your formula because you have the basics down pat for the most part, in my opinion. And of course, there's nothing wrong with having strong basics because that's what gave you a solid 14 points. Before we get into the level that just killed it for this month, let's go ahead and run some quick honorable mentions, Des. Again, these won't be coming from September since we had tons of people send us their older levels, which of course, thank you all so much for giving us cool levels to play. But for October's levels, I'll have it structured a little better so we can rep more for the current month. First, we have Boss Simulation System and Crashman Arena Fighter. I bring these two up together for an interesting reason. And it's not necessarily because these were mind-blowing, it's just the fact that these are awesome concepts with great potential. Boss Simulation System is just a boss rush of all the classic games, no less, but it introduced the idea to me of potentially how creative one could get with a boss rush. And Crashman Arena Fighter had quite a few flaws, but I enjoyed it, and I think there's a lot of ironing out someone could do with a moving arena for a boss to make it super cool. But what if you even kind of combined these concepts? I don't know, but I sure do hope to find out someday. We may or may not have already found a level that does a great job with one of these concepts for October. Exciting! We have Bionic Commando in Mega Man Maker Area 1 Oil Refinery. A very cool and unique level with aspects from Bionic Commando. I get none of the references, but the fact that it was still fun to play despite that is super cool. Practice making Cutman stage, an enjoyable time for sure. It did have a lot of background objects that I mistook for platforms, but I'm not sure how much they could actually do about that. But a very fun stage, of course, and a super hilarious stage at that, since you can just say "Shut up" to Cutman. Wire Shenanigans is one of the most unique ones yet, using the wire special weapon to get around and solve puzzles. There were a few downsides, like maybe giving more leeway between these gaps with the spikes and a more refined look at their checkpoints. Great stuff though, especially how the boss is kind of a timed challenge on your health gauge because of having to damage boost until you win. I thought that was a neat idea. Carnival Acres was a very fun level. Inspired by Clownman stage, I assume, in Mega Man 8 somewhat, but it was super fun in and throughout. I love the hazard setups and having to maneuver yourself in the bounce segments. Chef's kiss on design all around. Return to Wily's Fortress Mega Man 8 Wily 3 was one of the best levels I played last month. Very solid level. Had a good progressive challenge system and nice use of gimmicks and special weapons. And yes, the fact that the kickball was in this level has made me very biased, but it takes nothing away from how well designed the stage is. Ringman GB with Sub-Tank, another one of the best levels I played. Their gimmick with these platforms that slide from underneath you were done so well. I never felt like it was my fault if I got KO'd because they did a great job at prepping the player. They also had great enemy placement in correlation with not just their attacks, but with our special weapons as well. A great challenge with a very cool aesthetic. Red shift, blue shift. Good lord, this was a great level. The most unique one we played. It used the idea of changing gravity with the dolls laid around the area. And look at our little boy duo, so precious. If you really like a good puzzle, you have to play this level. It was very thoughtful and challenging. And finally, the best honorable mention I have for today is, well, you know what, actually, let's hold off on talking about it just for a bit, because it's going to fit well with what I want to talk about for the number 1 ranked level for the month on my list. And by the way, that number 1 ranked level is Gutsman Strikes Back, made by Dead Meme on September 5th. This stage was great. It does so many things right. It has great enemy placement to complement their attacks, the platforming, and the player's movement and special weapons. The platforming in general is just great, and the progressive challenge scaling on the environmental hazards and enemies were done very well. And the checkpoints are spaced well. The level environment aesthetic is great and feels very thoughtful with the colors, it all feeling natural to what you would see at this construction site. The progression feels natural, and also the music choice of course was good too. It has pretty good secrets and optional segments for goodies on top of hinting to the player that they exist. Like this one here where you have a platform you can't reach that looks suspicious, and this narrow gap you might have seen before if you explored to get this life earlier, but in this scenario you can't access it. So you cycle through your special weapons to see if you have anything for it if you haven't done so already. You find the wire special weapon to get to this room and use it to grab the E-tank. It kind of reminds me of Gravity Circuit. I like how they hid their optional segments and made platforming puzzles out of a lot of them. I love Gravity Circuit, but that's a video for another time. But yeah, this level was great, but there's only one thing. Actually, no, there isn't. I don't have much to say that they could have done better. At this point, if there is anything to add, it would just be about expanding creativity. And yeah, I'm sure this level isn't perfect, no level is, but because of how Dead Meme handled everything, if there was something they could have done better, it's overshadowed because of the difficulty balance. They made the stage challenging but fair, and that made it fun to play, so I never got frustrated with this level at all. And this isn't biased or anything. Like I said, What Killed the Dinosaurs was my favorite level from this list. Gutsman Strikes Back was actually Megarock's favorite level, which kinda sucks to admit, but you know, it has to be done. But going back to how I mentioned earlier that at this point, it would just be about expanding one's own creativity after you've found a solid foundation. I feel that this last honorable mention knocks this out of the freaking park, cause it does this and then some. The Return of Missile Man by Toxin G on December 19th, 2024. Guys, I think for the first time ever in my life, I've experienced what it feels like to fall in line with a great pair of shoes, cause dang do I need some, good lord. But nah, this level is insanely good. Great level design, enemy placement, well-placed checkpoints, challenge scaling, warns the player when necessary, hints secrets to the player, great attention to detail with the aesthetic, the music feels fitting. It was great. It's super challenging but fair. But how does Toxin go about expanding their creativity? The route Toxin decided to take was to lean heavily into making this level feel alive. He uses the little details to give life to some areas, have the enemies home to the area just fly by sometimes. He uses objects in the environment to spawn obstacles. He makes natural transitions between areas. All of it just feels alive. Like, oh my gosh, I loved it. It's almost like I was playing Sonic 3 but in a Mega Man game with how much was going on and changing. This is like King of Kings 1 if it was refined to heck and back. What a fantastic level. They also made difficulty options for this level where if you traveled to the left from the very beginning, you could transform into base, in which you'd be on super hard mode. I love stuff like this. Great job, Toxin. I do think that there was actually one thing that was overlooked, and it was this room here where if I missed this platform, there was no way for me to reset the room, which was the least of my problems because I was having so much fun that it didn't bother me much. It's still great stuff as it didn't show a lack of understanding, just a single oversight. I know on last stream you mentioned that this stage wasn't even your favorite, but it was great nonetheless. And I'm sure you have some love for it since you decided to share it in the first place. And it's because of some of these levels we've seen today that I wanted to do this, because I want to encourage people to challenge themselves and to aim to be better than they were yesterday. It's kind of hard to encourage that in the PvP games we cover on this channel, because it's just hard in general to not compare yourself with others in PvP games when you are directly exposed to their comparison and skill in that very moment. Sometimes it's just hard to separate it all, but I shall still try to encourage it there nonetheless, and I'm looking forward to it. Another thing I know for sure that I'm looking forward to, or actually no, two things I'm looking forward to. One, making my own level, cause yeah, I'ma dive into it with you guys, and two, playing more Mega Man levels in October, cause they are already looking so good, gosh darn. And hey, y'all go ahead and tell me how you would rank today's levels and which levels y'all really liked from September that I didn't get to play. Make sure you guys take care of yourselves and each other. Bye. Who is Max Distance?
He's Max Distance. He's my new OC. Do not steal.
It's the new Mega Man game coming out.
Make Man Max.
Mega Man Max Distance.
Honestly, that doesn't sound too. Like, that sounds pretty cool.
That sounds
honestly.
cool,
Honestly,
actually, no.
Yeah, it just sounds like a cool name. I actually might.